There we go. We're officially on. I'll do my good afternoons, and then we'll get started with our good friend Diana Rozos. All right, what we got here today? We got Amber. All right, good to see you, Amber, and Amara, and our Caitlin, and our Chari. Chari, I know I've asked you before. Am I saying that right? Is it Chari, or is it Cherry? Chari. Okay, it's Chari. Her name is cool because she's named after her dad, Harry, and they just put a C on it. Oh, so we got our Diana here. We've got Haley McGilvery here, and we've got Katie and Kayla Ducharme, the award-winning Diana, the award-winning Ducharme. She won Exceptional Caregiver.
Ah, bravo, Kayla. Good for you.
Right on. We got our Leah. We got our Megan is here. Another Megan, but she has an H in her name. That's how I tell them apart. We got we've got the illustrious Heidi Pearson. And listen to this name, Samantha Jolene.
Oh, sounds like a song.
And a country star, right? That's an amazing name. And then we have Tatiana Mohammed here. So it looks like we got a good chunk. One person is going to come in a bit late. He's got to pick up his kid from school.
Okay.
All right, everybody. I've got this thing recording. If you have a question for Diana, please put it in the chat. That way we can monitor the broadband and all that stuff. I'll watch the chat. Make sure I get all the questions and stuff like that. I'm going to just sort of chat with Diana on this about some of the beautiful stuff they do. And I've got a bunch of questions. Again, if you've got some questions, that would be marvelous. Are you ready, Diana Rozos?
I am ready, Mark Battle.
First of all, can we just start by you introducing yourself, your experience, who you are, what are sort of your big passions and all that kinds of stuff. So these folks can get their head around this magnificent person that you are.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, I actually would like to start, first of all, by just thanking all of you for being out there in the community. Actually, it just makes me teary just thinking about the work you're doing right now and how grateful the people that my family, the people that I know, the people I work with need you and need those centers open and need your beautiful spirit and willingness and resilience. So thank you. I shouldn't have started with that because actually it makes me want to cry. So I'm Diana. I am an ECE. I started in the field in 1976, actually 77. Thought I would just do a little stint in the summer to figure out what I wanted to do, and I never really looked back. I continued working in the field and going to school to get my ECE and then my management. I worked in a rural center for 20-some years and was the director of the University of Winnipeg Students Association daycare for 15 years. I taught early childhood for Assiniboine Community College for a few years and worked part-time in the addictions field in treatment centers. 6 years ago, I decided I didn't want to be a director anymore and wanted to just come and do the frontline work, actually. So I came to work at Family Dynamics, and I became a trainer for a program that we have here that's called the Family Childcare Training Program. So we train people who have barriers, whether that be language barriers or new to the country, employment barriers, whatever it is. We train them to become licensed family childcare providers, so open their own licensed childcare homes. So I did that for a few years. And then I ended up back in a management position here at the agency. So I am the manager of Family and Childcare Resources. So 3 of our programs here, a behavior support program, a childcare training program, and a parent coach program. And I'm sure one of the questions you have for me, Mark, is about what we do at the agency, so I can fill you in on what those programs are.
You are so smart. That was Absolutely, Diana. We haven't rehearsed this, everybody, so don't be out there going, "Oh, this
No,
is all
this is
planned."
completely impromptu, for sure. And I also do our photography for our agency. Actually, check out our website because if you have an opportunity, it tells you everything about our program. And we also, on the website, use all of our own client photos. So the photos there are all people that we work with. So I do the photography for the agency, the website, and the social media. So we are not for profit. So we have a lot on our plate typically as managers. It's not just one or two things. So that's a little about me. The agency now. So the agency is we are an agent, a not-for-profit agency that has been in operation since 1925. Really, really long time. Crazy. It has had a few different name changes. I don't even know them all, but anyway, it's been doing family work with families since 1925. And our mission is to bring families and partnerships and resources together to empower and strengthen communities and families. So we have the behavior support team. Some of you might know some of that team. So that's one of the teams I work with. They come out to your centers and help you work with kids who are struggling and need support. So their names are Wendy, Shay, and Sylvia. I'm sure some of you know them. Anybody know them? No? Yes.
Oh, Shari does.
Okay. So that team will come to the center and will just help. Sometimes they're kiddos that are going to be asked to leave childcare because it's just not working out, and so we consider that a fairly high intervention, a high need, and we try to get in there right away. Or obviously, if there are safety issues, we try to get in right away. And basically, we work with the staff, your teams, and these kids just to see, just to help things, just to help them cope, help them have better relationships, help them keep their space. Often, we are often the service in between, where sometimes they might be waiting for a diagnosis or a specialized service at autism services or somewhere. So we can try to fill the gaps in between. We do not diagnose children, but we will make recommendations to early learning and childcare to say that we think they need additional support. They don't always listen to us, but we do what we can there. And we also, yes.
Can I just ask Diana? So the center
The center gives us a call, yes, or the parent might. The center has to always ask permission, first of all. So if they called us and said, well, hey, we'd like you to come in, the first thing we ask is, have you talked to the parent? And is the parent in agreement? Because if the parent's not in agreement, then obviously we don't go. About almost 2 years ago, we also, in that work, realized that there was a need for some centers just to have mentorship. So not child-specific support, but more mentorship, and just they were struggling with whatever it was. I mean, just as a whole, struggling. So we brought on somebody in the team on a contract basis, and her name is Tamira, and some of you might have met her as well. And she would go in and help our centers. And our Wendy, oh, Amber knows Wendy, okay. Help our centers, help those centers that were just struggling with whatever it was. So that's not child specific, and we don't need any parental consent off for that work, but it's been actually really, really helpful. I don't have her with the team right now. Tamira's wonderful. Nicole says, there you go. Yes, she is. Yes.
I'm sorry, Diana. So can you give an example of what sort of things do you guys provide with that? I've never heard of that. That sounds amazing. What are some samples or examples that you guys do with that program?
Well, it's something that we started doing based on what we were seeing out there. So it was everything. I mean, sometimes we'd be there and the director or the staff would say, I don't, just struggling. We can't get our transitions together. Everybody's like, whatever. We're just having a hard time talking to one another as staff. It could be, it just could be that kids are just off the wall as a whole. So they really need some programming advice. Tamira comes from us from the Children Disability Services. So, and she also was an ECE at one point in her career way back. So it's really just everything, anything that where things are just not working. You know, there's a lot of stress in the center. There's a lot of people having a hard time relating to the kids having a hard time relating to the adults. There'd be staff having a hard time relating to one another and working together. Programming is just, you know, they're struggling with all of that. It's just anything that's happening in a center that's kind of getting in the way of really good quality childcare. Yeah. So it's relatively new, and it was again just when I have the money for it, I have put some money into that just because we saw that was really a need out there. Sometimes what would happen is we'd be supporting a little guy or a little girl, and we were ready to move on. We had given them all the support we needed, but we would leave and things would just fall apart. And so it was a bigger, you know, it often had needed some other things in place so that this little guy or this child could be supported. So we realized that when we would pull away, because we can only keep a file open so long, you know, our direction from the government and our funders, you know, we can't keep it open for 3 or 4 years. But sometimes the center really needed more than that. So it was kind of going beyond what we could do for that child, and sometimes just the few staff that were working with that child, and what can we do for this whole center to help support this child and the ECEs and everybody else there. So, yeah.
You know, I learned about a new thing that you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, part of our goal and our mission is to respond to what the community needs. So we have core services, but sometimes the way those core services are delivered can be different. And if we're doing our job properly, we should be paying attention to what kind of makes sense right now. What do people need right now, and what is missing? And we try to adapt. We've got really good relationships with our funders, so they usually give us the freedom to do some of that work. And I mean, you know, in all honesty, this is some of the work that coordinators, early learning and childcare coordinators, could be doing, but they're not. You know, they're not, for whatever reason. They aren't, and maybe they can't, and maybe they don't have the time or the capacity or all of that. So it doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen somehow if it can. So yeah. So that's.
Can I add in there, Diana, is I know all of these students are just itching to graduate, and they're all excited to graduate, but they will miss this, the networking helping. It's so great to know that there's dynamics where this can still happen after you graduate and you're working in a center. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, for sure. For sure. Yes, so that's our behavior support program, and the mentorship that I was talking about. Tamira's work is under that umbrella of behavior support. And then we have counseling. We are not a crisis counseling center, so we deal with, it's not crisis. So if somebody's in crisis, this isn't the place to come necessarily, but we have counselors who have a variety of backgrounds. We have three of our therapists are play therapists, so work with kids and families, which is really great because that's another huge gap out there, it seems, especially in the not-for-profit world. If you can afford a private therapist, sometimes that's an option to you, but many people can't afford that. So our services are all free. Behavior support's free. Counseling and a few of our services might have a sliding scale, but it would be minimal if there's any fee at all, because we're trying to eliminate barriers, obviously. So we have our counseling department, then we have our family childcare training department, which I told you about. Those are people that come in, train to become licensed providers. So we give them additional training, more than just, we teach the 40-hour course, but a bunch of other things, business and guiding and a bunch of other pieces. Mark has come in and presented to that group a few times, which has been so great.
It always, because the classes consisting of folks from areas of the world I've never even heard of. And when we all sit down together, like that group of folks, they all look at play the same way, and the value of play. I remember one of those sessions, I was blown away how everybody plays jacks.
Yeah. Yes.
Even
Yeah.
for materials, they were. You guys do a beautiful job there, by the way, because those people were bright. They were on. You had me come in towards the end, so they're already doing their technical explanations. I love that.
Yeah, it's so great. And I mean, Mark and I go back a long way, but you know what? I'm not, I certainly am honest enough to admit that it's hard work being an ECE. It's hard work being in a center. And sometimes myself and my team were feeling it. And when I felt like we needed a little energy, a little oomph, I'd say, hey, Mark, could you come in and do a staff meeting? And, you know, the next day everybody was like, I love my jobs. This is so amazing. So it's, yeah, I'm so glad to be able to do this because Mark's done it for me many times. And I know we'll continue to call on each other for those very reasons. Sometimes you need a different something infused. And he can always bring it to the party. That's for sure.
But I think you brought up a great point about it, like that so well to your agency is I'm intrigued by that mentor program that you guys have because we get stuck in our ruts, and it just takes one person coming in going, have you looked at your transitions? You go,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Has anybody else worked with Tamira? So Nicole, you have. What's your experience been? Can we ask that, Mark?
Let's try it.
What kind of help? What kind of things helped, I guess, or
Nicole,
anything? Just
you can put on your microphone, Nicole, if you want, or you can type and say, "Leave me alone."
yeah. Sorry, I put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. We had some children who definitely needed some additional support, but we didn't get funding for them just due to other reasons. So I was looking into how we could get some help. We called Family Dynamics. Tamira came in, basically kind of just talked to all the staff, figured out what we were all having trouble with, and gave us different things that we could do. And I think Allison Baker, I don't know if she's still at Family Dynamics, but she also came in.
Right.
She also came in and gave us some good resources and stuff because we didn't have the additional support grants from the government.
Right. Right. So the beauty in what we can do, I think, is that if you ask early learning, and I'm certainly not biting the hand that feeds me because we get funding from the government and we do the work they ask us to do. But when you ask early learning and childcare to come in, they have a very structured, this is what we do, this is what we teach, so we're going to teach this, where we have a little bit more flexibility to kind of do our own thing. So it's certainly not that we're going to be doing something really wild and crazy, but we're not following some specific documents or format or, we can do our own thing. So I think that's what, and it has nothing to do with regulations, obviously. Okay, sorry. Alrighty, moving on. The next thing I'll talk about is our family resource centers. So we have 6 family resource centers out in the communities. And they are in every part of the city. They're spread out through the city, and they are working with their community. They are in housing units, and they are there to support the community, the immediate community. So not just the community that's in the housing unit, but the community just around that area. And they will provide workshops. They could do a workshop on money management, for example. They might they do some food banks. They'll be doing drop-in, different activities, picnics, things that whatever the family needs. Again, the programming there is based on what they're seeing right now. What are people needing? What's it looking like out there in this community right now? And then they plan their programming around that. They are drop-in as well, so they're always there. Right now, everything's looking a little bit different as a result of COVID, obviously, but yeah, so those are our resource centers. Then we have a program called FAST, which is Families and Schools Together. And that is a program that is built to bridge the gap between schools and families. So we have a lot of families that that struggle. You know, maybe school wasn't their thing as a child, and they're not super comfortable with school. Maybe the whole idea of talking to a teacher or a principal or anything is just kind of, you know, not where it's at for them. They don't feel super confident, just uncomfortable being in a school. There could be a bunch of different things. And so this program is meant to bring school to kind of bridge that gap for people. So school teachers volunteer to come once a week, and parents come as a family, and they set up in the school gym and they eat together. Every family gets to choose what they want for food. So they choose the food, and there are volunteers and people that receive honorariums from the community that come in and prepare the food. The family gets to sit and eat together, no devices, no TV, no anything, sitting and eating together. There's some, you know, they do some activities together where their kids kind of what you as ECEs already know needs to happen, where children take the lead and play. So the kids say, hey, I want to do this. And so the family does that with them. Then the family splits apart, and the adults go to sit together in a sharing opportunity where they together as parents get to talk about what's going on for them, whatever that is. And the kids have playtime with a ECE. And then they all come back together, do a farewell circle and some things. And in all of this, you know, you look in the room, you have no idea who the parent or the teacher is. It's supposed to be, you know, very lateral. It doesn't matter who, you know, this is the principal. She's out there slinging the spaghetti and doing the whatever, and everybody is just together. And it's a really cool program, actually. And I worked with that program for a couple of years. I managed that one, and it's pretty cool. So that's called FAST. And then we have, what else we have? Family support for refugees. We've just changed that to call that program Family Support for Newcomers. So that's very much a case management type of a program where people that are new to Canada need support and advocacy and people to help them through every, you know, so many parts of their life and their new journey. So it might be that a social worker or caseworker in that program would take on a family or take on many families, and she might help them with rent. Maybe the house they're in is infested with mice and nobody's doing anything about it. They need to find childcare. They need to be able to communicate with their schools, and they're not able to do that. Problems with doctor's appointments or medical appointments, anything at all. It's a settlement program. So anything that will help them settle, we do that. And those are, we have a lot of families that are coming from trauma backgrounds for sure. And so we very much work from a trauma-informed perspective at the agency, obviously. But we were one of the few agencies that brought in, I think we took on 5 of the 10 ECE families that moved to Winnipeg. A lot of families from Syria that are, you know, that fled. So there's a lot of trauma, a lot of things going on there. So it's a very busy program. So that is our support for newcomer program. Then we have another program that is called Community Settlement Program, which is basically taking some of those same families and helping connect them to their community. So it isn't as much case management as is planning activities and things that will bring these people together. So could be picnics. Right now we're doing conversation circles. So we're teaching English, conversational English to a couple groups. 3 different groups of those are running right now. Up until last week, they were running in community centers and church basements, but they've gone virtual this week. Picnics, like, oh gosh, what else would happen? It's fun stuff that brings families and communities together.
Yeah. It just sounds like everything. To me, it just sounds like it is so responsive to what people actually need.
Yes. I mean, I think that's what we do a really good job of, is just paying attention to what's happening right now. And then, you know, we're, again, have good relationships with our funders. So if they're like, you know what, we need a little bit more money, that program, the support for newcomer program and our community settlement program is federally funded. So they've got their pulse on what's going on for sure. And in Winnipeg, Winnipeg being a hotspot, for newcomers for sure. So that that program has expanded over the years and has gotten quite big, actually. It's probably doubled the size now as a result of what the need is out there for sure.
Wow. And I gotta say, I love the focus on food as a means for people to come together. That's what I'm saying. You guys are big out of the box thinkers. You understand the tiny little things that are essential for people to come together.
Yes, that if food is the one thing for sure, that whole, that builds community and yeah, yeah. Right now we're not doing a ton of food stuff, obviously, but even in the family childcare training program, there's always snack. Right, we actually had to stop doing it. We were doing in class up until last week, or in the agency, just smaller groups. But now I was like, nobody can take their masks off, so I'm afraid you're gonna have to take your snack and eat it in your car. I guess unfortunate, but I mean, there's a lot of things we just have to let go of and be okay with. And then our next program is our in-home support program. So it is really, really practical in-home support. So it would be a staff going in there and helping a family. Maybe a family just had twins and they are struggling and need some really practical hands-on help. So that could be childcare, that could be meal prep, housekeeping, whatever. Some really practical care. It's short term just to get people through. We're not a respite service per se in that program, but it's a short term program to help people that are struggling for a little bit until they can find something else, find another service or whatever it is. So that's our family support program. Then we have our parent coach program, which is the other program that I work with. And that is a program where we go in and help parents who are struggling with their relationships with their kids or their kids. So they might call and say, hey, I can't get my 16-year-old won't listen to anything, won't get out of bed and, whatever, or I can't train my 2-year-old and, or whatever's going on. So it's typically a parenting issue. That's what it presents as. You have to volunteer yourself, although we do get a lot of phone calls from other agencies asking us to work with a family. We always say yes if that family wants to work with us, but they need to contact us. So we do get some referrals from Child and Family Services, etc. Somebody who's at risk of losing their child and needs maybe some help. And this is kind of a last attempt to see if we can help them along. So they'll come with a really simple problem typically, and then usually our parent coaches go out into the home and work in the home with them. So we're not there working with the child, we're working with the parent, although the kids might be present, and that's great because we can do some modeling, but they're not always. And we'll help them set up goals for themselves. And we don't have a specific curriculum. We work in that program from an attachment perspective. So, what's going on right now for you that's really difficult? What do you want to work on? What should we try? And then typically as the relationship builds, and that's one of the things that the agency really does well, is that we are all about building a relationship, and we're certainly not the experts. We go in and help support you because everybody else, the parents are the experts, the center staff, they know. We're just going to help support the pieces that sometimes people forget or just are not accessible to them for whatever reason. So we do a lot of relationship building and then working together on goals. And sometimes it'll be something really simple like toilet training. And then we get in there and we realize, oh my gosh, this family's got a ton of trauma. Big trauma. So there's a whole bunch of mental health things going on. There's a whole bunch of other things going on. This child doesn't feel secure. There's all a bunch of stuff. So typically, it becomes bigger, and we break it down into manageable pieces. And we have one of the other amazing things about this agency is we have the ability to refer within our agency. So if it gets really big in terms of mental health, then sometimes we can tag team with our counselors and make sure that they get into therapy as well, so that our work can happen side by side and, and support one another. Sometimes when we're working with in the parent coach program, we go into a home and it's just the kids are all over the place and the parent can't attend because they just can't be there and present. So we can have our family support staff come in and provide childcare while we do the other work. Sometimes it's a newcomer family and they're like, oh, they're a newcomer, we're going to help them with the case management, but they really need some work with parenting as well. So we can kind of, again, have a couple different programs supporting a family. Yeah, so that's kind of what we do here.
That was all 20 minutes.
Oh, well, too much time. Sorry, it's really hard to make it short. You should have told me how much time we had in the beginning, actually.
No, but that's family dynamics. I posted your links on the two classes, today's and tomorrow's, just so people can get their heads around how holistic you guys are. And boy, just hearing how perceptive, how responsive, and you're absolutely right. You go in to do toilet training. That's just a small little thing. And families are so fortunate to have a team that now we can go bring other people in. Oh golly, we're so darn lucky. Okay, let me throw you another question then. What supports, like, and think about, this can draw from your experience in the field, but also your work right now, of course. But what supports do you think are essential to families?
What supports are essential is in terms of what the services you mean, or what would you, anything?
I mean, anything to just help a family get by nowadays. What have you learned? What's sort of big for you about what is a really necessary support for families?
I think what I learned, probably more than I would have known, since my time at Family Dynamics, is connection. And I think, we talked about this the last time, and I feel like people really, really need connection. And I think now, even more so, obviously, they're isolated, they're not connected. But even before COVID, people were isolated. They have barriers. They don't have vehicles necessarily. They don't have the money to go out and have connection with other people. They're a single dad with 4 or 5 kids. How do you have time to connect to anybody? They are, there's just so much going on, and people are tired because we have overextended ourselves. So parents are tired. Mental health and anxiety, definitely escalating for sure, and that's a big one. So I think that anything that we do around mental health is not enough. It feels like we could go, that every family could use some of that. I mean, I can use some of that. We can all use some of that right now. Everybody can, for sure. So definitely the mental health is big in terms of anxiety, childhood anxiety. Lots of anxiety. We're seeing lots and lots of anxiety in kids right now, and pre-COVID as well, which is crazy to me. When you think about a 4-year-old in a center having major anxiety, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a time when we're supposed to be filled with play and not care about anything and, carefree. And that's not what we're seeing. Not what we're seeing at all, which is really, really unfortunate. So I feel like it all comes back to connection. If we can provide families ways to connect with their kids, parents ways to connect with whoever they need to connect with, whether it be us or eventually community, find ways to connect with each other and support one another. It feels like that's all of it. I think since we've gone remote, we're finding ways to make it work, but I think everybody's feeling that. Well, right now everyone's afraid to leave their house, so it's a lot of things we're feeling for sure, but just helping everybody, kids and adults, everyone know that they're not alone in any of this, right? And so connection, big time connection for sure. Working from, sorry, go ahead.
What I thought was interesting from your FAST program for the parents to sit and talk.
Yeah.
Like, if more parents had an opportunity to sit and talk, they'd realize, hey, what I'm going through is exactly what everybody else is going through. And not that that heals you, but it does get you moving towards going, I'm not alone. This is important. It's called being a parent, for heaven's sake.
Absolutely. And, I think people are trying to find ways to do that through social media and all of that, but it's not the same. It isn't the same. And you can't, also there's a whole bunch of stuff there on social media that's not necessarily helpful. Yeah. We're seeing that. I mean, to say parents, that's one of the things that we're actually going to start doing in our parent coach program is we're going to do a parent group again, but not sure nobody's perfect, or one of those schedule one, basically hey, what's going on out there for you right now? You know, how was your week? Let's talk about this. Let's do, and let the parents we'll have a format and a framework that will align with the work we do with parents, but leave it to be a bit more organic and open-ended so people can be together and whatever. And if they say, hey, I've had this, can I swear on here? I swear?
Yeah, why not? We're not recording this.
Okay, I've had a really shitty day, and all they need is to talk to somebody about that. Somebody who's not their partner or their parent or their whatever. Yeah, safe place, you know. So yes, definitely connection. Yeah, and that's a big one for sure.
Well, can we jump on that because we've been also talking about the stressors,
Mhm.
for families. What are you seeing? Are you mentioned the health, the mental health bit, and boy, after all of this, I hope we have a big investment in mental health services because we're all going to need a gentle landing.
Absolutely.
So,
I
what do
think
you see? What do you see as some of the big stressors out there that we should be?
I think we're seeing a lot of parents who are feeling really, really worried about the kids being at home and homeschooling if that's the case, or and if they're not at home, worried about them being at school and getting sick. Um, they're worried about their job. Who isn't worried? You know, we don't know anything for sure right now, right? Everything is very, very unsettled. So I think that the parents' anxiety, we're seeing that in kids as well. And kids are talking about COVID. They're talking about being scared. They're talking about their mom being scared. They're talking about their dad, not having work. The kids are talking because they're hearing all of that. So for sure, anxiety around all of those things. I think the other thing is that the people that we're working with right now, we're trying to help them, everybody acknowledge that COVID fatigue is a thing. It's a thing. Acknowledge that, it's okay to feel really lousy, and it's okay. Like I said to my daughter the other day, I just wanted to stay in bed and pull the covers over my head for the day and not deal with it. Because every time we open our eyes and we turn on our phone, it's right there in our face. And to some degree, we need to know some of it, but then it's like, oh my gosh, it's too much. Sometimes it's too much. So just allowing parents, and for you that are working with kids, and knowing that these parents have probably had a difficult day. Um, you know, I remember saying this before, but we often get, certainly myself and my team used to be sometimes frustrated when a parent wouldn't come early, and we're like, well, no, they're not working. Why are they leaving them till 5:30? And then, I've shifted my mindset to say, oh, that might be the best thing for them right now and for this child, because if they haven't had time to recharge somehow, whatever that is, and hopefully it's in a healthy way, then it's not going to be really very, very good for that little boy or that child to go home with that parent at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock anyway, or if they're going to go home and just be distracted by their phone or by whatever else. So whatever it takes for them to be present with their child is something that is, I'm all over. And it's like, if they have to leave them here till 6 o'clock, but then can give them an hour of undivided time where it's just them, or have a meal together, that's great. I mean, we don't always see all of that either, but people are finding distractions because it's helpful. So we're all looking for distractions, something to make us feel better right now. So we're trying to help people say, okay, what could be a healthy distraction? Instead of gaming, or instead of smoking too much pot, or eating too many cookies. I mean, that's my go-to. I just want to make cookies. And uh, what could you do that would make you feel good, that would actually help you recharge your batteries? And sometimes it is making cookies, because that's what it is, but not every day. Not every day making and eating cookies necessarily, but what is it that would fill your tank so that you can actually drive the bus that your kids are on every single day? What do you need to do first for you? So it's a lot of self-care right now, a lot of encouraging people to take care and to acknowledge how difficult it is right now.
That was beautiful, Diana. Uh, Everything I believe in, absolutely, and it's golly, you guys are so good at the tiny things that mean the most. I just know my wife's been telling me because she works at Tech Talk in the play lab there with the teen parents, and she sees these young moms come in, and they're supposed to come in for lunch with their kid. But Patty, because everyone's so stressed, she's been saying, "No, I'll watch the kids. Go with your friends," and she let these people cry.
Yeah, yeah,
Simple
yeah.
as that.
I know. They don't have any other opportunity. And as you know, we work with a lot of newcomer families, a lot of indigenous community, and they're used to counting on their whole family and those people outside to help them with their kids and help them. That's how they raise their families as a community. And right now they have, they can't even go to back to their community if they wanted to go on the weekend, or there's just so many things that have been taken away for sure. So yes, I know that there's been some studies and there's expected to be higher rates of suicide. I think, we'll see, I guess, where that goes, but we are certainly we've done some needs assessments through the whole COVID for our communities to see what's needed out there. And it's connection. Sometimes it's something really, really practical, like they went to homeschooling and didn't have a computer in their home to even use, so we could help with something like that. But often it was just, people are overwhelmed with media and technology for sure. And so sometimes if you can take a few of those practical pieces and help them, then it can just give everybody time just to breathe and just to honor that they're doing the best they can. Right now, you don't have to get it perfect. And we don't ever get it perfect, and that's okay. And it's okay actually to know that this is really, really difficult right now.
Yeah, parenting is not for the weak.
Not for the week. No, I was an ECE and I thought I would get it all right. Oh my gosh. Whew, did not. I mean, but I'm here to tell you, I have a 44-year-old who's a somatic psychotherapist and a 40-year-old that's a therapist, and they're doing just fine. Doesn't matter what I didn't get right. And there was a lot I didn't get right.
Yeah, it just happens. Yeah, I was just hanging out with my son this weekend. He was pouring concrete weights because the gyms are shut down. And I realized, oh my God, I guess it just, like my grandmother said, it just happens. They turn into good people. You screw up. All right, it all works out in the end.
I would say he got your creative gene if he's pouring. That's what he's doing. That's amazing.
He's like my grandmother. My grandmother used to make out her own workout stuff with spools, thread spools and stuff. So anyway,
Oh,
that's a genetic thing.
cool. Okay. Well, that's great.
Can I ask you two more questions, Diana?
Mhm.
Okay, what was your favorite part about War and Peace? Just a little. What you've been talking a lot about supports, and I love this bit about connection. If anybody takes one thing away from today, it's that value of connection. And once you commit yourself to it, what happens? What supports do you see out there that are missing? That if you had all the money in the world, you could provide this for families.
What supports don't seem to be missing that we found is supports for teenagers, families and teenagers. That seems to be a big one right now. We've noticed for sure. Um, what do we see that's missing? Well, obviously we can do nothing to address food security issues that we have in Winnipeg, poverty, addictions. Those are the big ones, I think. And our agency doesn't, we can address the little offshoots and pieces of that, but that's so big. Those are big areas for big areas in the city. I mean, we're located right downtown Portage in Maine, Portage Place rather. And so that's where our office is, and we're obviously all over the community. But yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I think that addictions and we've got more people living on the street now, sleeping on the street, and a lot of addictions, and our shelters that are bursting at the seams and aren't able to support them. I don't know that that's anything that's so big. That's really, really big, and that's certainly there's issues with our systems. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that we can't do anything about, but that's a heaviness. I think personally, it's a heaviness for me because I feel like I don't know where to start, even with my work here, how we can address any of that. I guess on a more practical level, I don't know what's missing. I think I feel like I can't really think of things that are missing per se, you know? I mean, we've got a lot of great work that a lot of good agencies in the city that are doing really, really good work. It seems to be the places that are, I mean, definitely trauma is very, very big. So having trauma-informed care practices and agencies is really important. So we're seeing a lot of that. I mean, that is just everywhere. Um, and so whether or not there's long wait lists for therapy for counselors everywhere as well. So I mean that mental health seems to be a big one there. It's a bit of a wait everywhere you go right now for a counselor for sure. If you're looking for accessible counseling and something that isn't going to cost you money, that seems to be a big one for sure. Our play therapists are busy all the time, so play therapy in kids also big.
You bring up a good point about the trauma informed practice. That's come a long way. You
Yes.
know, I was working in centers totally unequipped to deal with the trauma the kids were coming from, even up to about, I would say, 10 years ago, talking to kids, newcomer kids who have seen things, uh, who would tell me, you know, some of the terrible things they've seen. And I just looked around the room and I went, nobody here is equipped
Oh, no.
to help this kid. So we have come a long way that way.
We definitely have, and I think we have to always pay attention and ask. You know, we have to become informed and understand your families. And I mean, we had, you know, so many times at the center where we didn't. You know, we had a little guy who would. We had the center space that we used for the green space was just a big grassy. It was like I loved it. It was just a big grassy field. It was part of Duckworth, part of the university. So it was just a grassy field, and that was our play space. Well, every time we brought these kids out, this one group of kids, this little guy would just go. He would run like you have not seen, like run, and he would jump over the fence and jump onto Young Street or wherever. And we're like, oh, so the staff are like, no way, man, we can't bring him outside anymore, like super unsafe. So I said, okay, well, let me talk to dad and see what's going on. So I talked to dad and he was like, oh, well, I took my son by the hand and we ran. And we ran for our life. And they ran and they ran and they ran until they got to a refugee camp. So they escaped their country. And so what this little guy saw when he saw an open field was run for your life. An open field and a chain link fence meant run as fast as you can and do not stop. So we were triggering his trauma every time we brought him out there without knowing that. And until we asked the family, as until I had this conversation with dad, we would have never known. So it was like, this little guy's not listening. He can't be outside. It's not safe. Wow. What does he need? What does this little guy need right now? And we wouldn't have known had we not asked. And that wasn't something dad was going to offer up to us. I mean, why would he think to even say anything, right? I mean, they're just trying to move as far away from his trauma as possible. Certainly doesn't want to talk about it necessarily. I mean, so many opportunities or so many situations like that where we needed to understand.
But that's a beautiful point you brought up about the value of connecting again with everybody. And once you have that connection, now we can have a conversation, and now you feel comfortable enough to tell me. And you're right. No parent's going to disclose that at the orientation meeting. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're going outside, they're not going to. They won't understand that's valuable. So, but it's that connection and understanding each other that happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my God! You know, well, I was crying a little bit there. I was. I was. Damn. All right. Can I end with a positive question? Who knows how this will go? Oh, damn. I don't know about you guys out there, but that really moved me. It did. And good on you guys to just find out. Okay, moving on. But here's my last question for you, unless someone else has a question in the chat. Yeah, I don't see anything there. But my last question for you, what advice, what tips would you give these guys for increasing the supports to family in their own programs?
I think always, you know, it's certainly not something you haven't heard or don't already know, but always check in with yourself to see where you might be, because we're human beings and we do it, where we might be judging a child or a family. And and reflect on what barriers that's putting up, in terms of us building a connection so that we can have the best possible relationship with these people. And again, it's cliche, but we have no idea what people's stories are. And sometimes we are triggering all kinds of things in people. And that's been my own personal goal in my life, is to recently, especially, is just to realize what part I'm playing in that, and trying to reflect a little bit, because without even knowing, sometimes we're making assumptions, we're judging, we're having a hard time, and that's based on our own stuff, right? I mean, it's like, we're supposed to take turns and go work from home, and I wasn't the first one to put up my hand, because I'm like, I'll be seen as not a good worker, like I don't have good work ethic, whatever. And that was triggering something from my childhood, nothing to do with anything else. So always know that we might think we know what's going on, but it's never as simple as that. So if we can just reserve judgment, the way we would want anyone to reserve judgment, because we've got our own stuff and our own lives, and it doesn't matter how beautiful our lives have been, we've all had something, and we're even now understanding it doesn't even have to be big. We're not talking about abuse, and there's all kinds of trauma. So every one of us has experienced something. So it's not all about trauma, but I think sometimes my biggest advice would be, and I wish I could go back and have done some of this differently in my earlier years as an ECE, is just not to judge, and just try to, if you can't feel love and for this family, then even feeling something neutral is better than judging. Quite honestly, sadly, but true. And I'm working with somebody, and he told me this, and this is really, and it's a little bit, it's a little more than you might want to hear. But he said he always asks himself, what would love do? And I'm like, that is so brilliant, because we don't have to be in love to love, And I'm like, what would love do? And every one of you love those children, and know that they deserve the best in the world, and you're there to give them that as much as you can. But it's like, so he said, when you're trying to make a decision, think, what would love do? And when you just open that up wide, I'm like, wow, love wouldn't judge that person right now. Love wouldn't say, my gosh, like whatever, like it wouldn't say any of that. So yeah, that might be a little more, what's the word that you might want? But I think, if I'm being honest, that's what I would say.
As soon as you said it, my first thought was, what the hell is she talking about? And once I started to put together in my head, I went, that is probably the best advice to anybody. Well, anybody, but specifically in our field, is what would love do to the situation? Always have that in the back. I think that's a brilliant. That's the way. I think that's the best advice.
I know, isn't it? It's like, even I'm painting my bathroom, and I'm like, on the weekend, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do this. It's like, and I'm kind of getting grouchy, and and I'm kind of like, and then it's like, what would love do? Well, love would do, hey, put the brush down? What do you want to do for yourself right now? So who can I blame then if I do what love's going to do? It's like, hey, I just took care of myself. I don't want to paint right now. Simple as that. That's what love would do. So I may be taking it to the extreme and using it a little bit, but no, I mean, in all honesty, I think it's brilliant. I think it was like, I was just like, wow. Every time I've used that to try to make a decision since he's told me that, I'm like, that is just so smart.
Love is unconventional. Love doesn't follow a pattern or a routine or a formula. Love, you respond to that moment in time, and whatever that response is the right response, as long as it's grounded in love.
Yeah, and it's not about a person. It's not even about you loving that child or loving that parent. It's about you loving the idea that kids deserve a really, really good relationship or a really good day. You love the idea that kids are amazing if they're given the opportunity to be. You love the idea that, you can frame it whatever way you want, right?
Wow. Okay. Any questions? Any further questions for our Diana?
I wish I could see your faces.
I know.
Check out, I was just going to say, if you go onto the website under there, I can't remember where I've got it now, but there's a video, and you can see how we had to kind of shift gears during COVID, during those first 3 months of shutdown. You'll just see what we did. If you play it and play it with music, I put together just some photos I took of how we got out there and what things we did for the community and how we had to repurpose some of our teams. And it shows you the community. I can't remember where I've got it in there, but play it with sound. I used somebody else's song, but I think it's okay. But it's too late. It's up there anyway. But it's just our clients, and Mark, I'll send you the link even, or you can share it maybe. And it just gives you a sense of the agency during COVID, during those 3 months anyway. I mean, we do more than that, but there we decided to provide food kits and do activity kits and try to keep folks and their kids engaged at home and occupied and happy and whatever. So we thought, what can we drop off on people's doorsteps right now that will help them get through today? And that's what we did.
Well, Diana, yeah, I'd appreciate that link. And if the musicians are mad, what would love do? Come on, guys.
I didn't use Beyonce's version. I used a knockoff, which was even way better than Beyonce. So
no worries. Diana, this was beautiful. This was a beautiful hour. Your passion, your wisdom, your heart in this is just, I don't know about you guys, but it overwhelms me. It makes me think that, holy smokes, we are so lucky to have someone like you, someone like Family Dynamics. And again, your heart, what you've been talking about was all that heart stuff that sometimes gets missed in these times and in these interactions, and we need that reminder to be pulled back and remember. I love that bit about what would love to, and I hope everybody remembers that.
Get out of here and into here. Yeah.
You know what? Absolutely. I know you and I both feel the same thing. There's too much of this and not enough this, because too much this won't solve the problem.
Absolutely.
So you are absolutely right there. And I also want everybody to remember Diana's points about the value of connection. Everything that Diana talked about today, everything that Family Dynamics is all about connection, and it can look 1,000 different ways. Diana, thank you so much. We're all done this. I think this is the second beer I got to buy.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. I wish I could see your faces, but maybe I'll see you out there sometime in the community. Mark has my contact information if you have any other questions. I'll send that link for just so you can take a look at that. And you're right, the web page has, although I haven't done a ton of work on it, but it does talk about our services and things. So yeah, all good. Check it out. Okay.
It's an honor to have you as a friend, sister.
And right back to you. Take care, everybody. Be good to yourselves. And we'll see you, as one of my favorite artists says, we'll see you around the corner.
Take care, Diana.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was amazing. Was I the only one that had a little cry there on her story of that kid jumping the fence? Am I the only guy?
That was super sad.
Oh, yeah, that was, but boy, oh boy, that the value of just talking to parents and finding out what's going on. You are definitely not the only, okay, we're saying that. Leah said, no, she wasn't touched. Okay, yeah. Oh boy. But again, that value of just getting to know people and being honest, having an honest conversation. And again, to reaffirm about that whole bit about the value connections, beautiful. What did you guys, just before we go, what did you think about that little point she said about what would love do? Did that make sense to folks? That was an aha for me, to tell you the truth. Was it for anybody else? Just went, I've never sort of thought about it like that. I'm going to assume that maybe it was. There's people's heads were so blown away they can't work their fingers and type and stuff. All right. I think I needed that, honestly. We'll definitely be saying that to myself from now on, Megan. Yeah, me too, Megan. Me too. It keeps it nice and simple. It keeps it nice and simple. Um, uh, yeah. So okay, that's good. And yeah, Amber says it makes sense too. All right, everybody. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or any last sort of parting thoughts before we take off and I say my goodbyes to everybody till tomorrow? All right, I'll do my goodbyes then. Thank you guys for showing up today at 1. Thank you for listening to my good friend Diana. Uh, Again, look at some of the links there that I posted for today. I think it was today's class, or yes, today's class, and maybe last, maybe it was this class too. Family dynamics on there. Go check them out. Also, think about them for a possible career when you graduate from this place, because they do offer so many different services there. And again, Diana's an early childhood educator, so that might be up some of your alleys about looking at a more holistic sort of view of our work. And boy, oh boy, they do some amazing things. All right, I'm going to say my goodbyes, and I want to wish you all a beautiful night, and I hope you have some time for yourselves. And, Diana reminding us that, even if it's just a nice long shower, that's always nice too. So please take care of yourselves, and I'll say my goodbyes to everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 9 o'clock on the old WebEx, and then 9:30 with our Joanna White. So here we go. Amber, have yourself a lovely night. Amara and Brittany. Oh, Brittany's got a full last name on here now. Look at that, everybody. Did you notice that on the participants chat? She's gone. I guess the family feud is over, and she's proud to use the Leverall. Maybe that's why she says L, because I can't say her last name. Have a great day, great night, Brittany. Kate, have yourself a lovely night. And Chari, have a beautiful night. I hope you were cool with me talking about your name. A little late asking for permission. Joffrey, I know you came a little late. That's okay, but I'm going to post this up on the old YouTube and post both recordings in about half an hour. It takes about half an hour for both of them to upload. So have yourself a good day, Joffrey. Haley, I hope you have a lovely day. Katie, you too. Kayla, I hope you have a lovely night. Megan, I hope you have a beautiful night. Nicole, thanks for being that you really tied things in with your example, so that was beautiful. Heidi, didn't hear your voice this afternoon, but I know you're out there. I feel it. I feel the energy. Who else? Oh, and Samantha and Tatiana took off already before me saying goodbye. So Samantha Jolene, have a lovely night. Take care, everybody.